What do you see when you gaze into the mirror of your own mind? Do you see the world as it is, or as you wish it to be? Most of us, if we're honest, cling to comforting illusions about love, about people, about ourselves. We paint rosy pictures of relationships, convinced that our partners, our desires, or our ideals are pure and unblemished. But what happens when the veil is lifted? What happens when a philosopher like Arthur Schopenhauer, with his unflinching gaze, forces us to confront truths we'd rather avoid? Today, we begin a journey into the heart of reality, where the truths about women and human nature itself demand our courage and clarity. Schopenhauer dared to speak what many dare not think. His writings on women, though controversial and often harsh, are not merely about gender. They are a mirror reflecting our deeper tendencies to idealize, to project, to escape. He argued that men, driven by biology and desire, often see women not as they are but as they wish them to be, goddesses, saviors, or eternal muses. This is the first brutal truth. We blind ourselves to reality to shield our hearts from discomfort. We create fantasies, not just about women, but about life itself, because the raw truth is too jagged to swallow. But what if facing that truth could set us free? Consider the story of James, a man in his 30s, successful in his career but lost in love. James met Sarah at a friend's wedding, her laughter like music, her eyes promising a future he'd always dreamed of. He saw in her everything he wanted, a soulmate, a partner, a dream come true. He ignored the small signs, her fleeting attention, her reluctance to share her deeper thoughts, because he wanted to believe. Months later, when Sarah left without warning, taking with her his trust and his savings, James was shattered. How could I have been so blind? He asked himself, staring at the wreckage of his heart. The answer is simple yet devastating. James didn't see Sarah. He saw his own longing reflected back. His story is not unique. How many times have you, too, seen what you wanted rather than what was real? Schopenhauer's voice echoes here, cutting through our illusions like a blade. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as self-evident. When we first encounter uncomfortable truths about women, about men, about ourselves, we recoil. We mock, we deny, we rage. Schopenhauer's views on women, rooted in his observations of human nature, are no exception. He saw women not as the romanticized ideals of poets, but as beings shaped by the same primal forces that drive us all: survival, desire, instinct. To him, men's tendency to elevate women to pedestals was not love but delusion, a refusal to see the raw, unpolished truth of human motives. Can you feel the weight of that idea? Can you bear to look at the people in your life, women, men, yourself, without the rose-tinted glasses? The emotional sting of this realization is real. It hurts to admit that we've been wrong, that we've built castles in the air only to watch them crumble. But there's a strange beauty in this pain, a liberation waiting on the other side. To see clearly is to reclaim your power. It's to stand in the storm of reality and say, I will not be fooled again. This is where our journey begins, not with despair, but with the courage to face the mirror and ask, what have I refused to see? So, how do we learn to face this truth without flinching? The skill begins with a single, radical act, questioning your assumptions. Every belief you hold about women, about relationships, about yourself, put it under the microscope. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? What evidence supports it? What if I'm wrong? This is not about cynicism or distrust. It's about clarity. Start small. The next time you feel a rush of admiration or anger towards someone, pause. Write down what you feel and why. Then ask, is this feeling based on what I see or what I want to see? This simple practice, done daily, begins to peel back the layers of illusion. It's the first step towards seeing the world, and the women in it, as they truly are. Let's linger on James for a moment longer. After Sarah's betrayal, he could have drowned in bitterness. Instead, he chose to learn. He began to question his ideals, his expectations, his blind spots. He started noticing patterns, not just in Sarah, but in himself. He saw how his need for validation had clouded his judgment, how his dreams had painted a picture that reality couldn't match. Through this painful reflection, James began to rebuild, not just his heart, but his ability to see. He learned to ask hard questions, to demand truth from himself. And in doing so, he found something more valuable than love, wisdom. This is the mirror of truth Schopenhauer holds up to us. It's not a gentle mirror. It shows every flaw, every crack, every shadow. But it also shows possibility. By facing the truths we often avoid, about women, about desire, about our own hearts, we begin to carve a path to a stronger, wiser self. So, I ask you again, what do you see in this mirror? Are you ready to look closer, to question deeper, to embrace the discomfort that leads to growth? The journey has just begun, and the truth, though sharp, is your guide. Why do we turn away when truth stares us in the face? Why do we flinch when a mind like Schopenhauer's pierces the veil of our comforting illusions? His words, sharp as a winter wind, cut through the stories we tell ourselves, about love, about women, about the very nature of our desires. To look through Schopenhauer's lens is to see the world unfiltered, raw, and unyielding. It's a vision that challenges us to confront not just how we see women, but how we see ourselves. Are you ready to hold this lens to your own heart and ask, what truths am I avoiding? Schopenhauer's perspective on women is not merely a critique of gender. It's a scalpel dissecting the human tendency to romanticize what is, at its core, driven by instinct and necessity. He argued that men, swayed by biology and desire, elevate women into ideals, muses, angels, saviors, while ignoring the primal forces that shape us all. The stark truth is this: relationships, whether with women or men, are often less about love and more about unspoken needs, power, and survival. We don't want to hear this. We want poetry, not biology. We want fairy tales, not facts. But Schopenhauer demands we look closer. He saw women not as the flawless beings of our fantasies, but as products of the same human condition that binds us all. Flawed, driven by instinct, navigating a world of competing desires. Can you feel the discomfort of this idea? Can you bear to see the people in your life stripped of the halos you've placed upon them? This truth is brutal because it shatters the illusions we cling to. We want to believe that love is pure, that our partners are uniquely destined for us, that our feelings are noble. But Schopenhauer's lens reveals a different picture. Our attractions are often rooted in biology, our choices shaped by unconscious needs, our ideals mere projections of what we lack. This isn't just about women, it's about the human condition. Men and women alike project fantasies onto each other, building castles of expectation that crumble under the weight of reality. To accept this is to face a second stark truth. Ignoring the raw motives behind our relationships sets us up for disappointment. We fall in love with illusions, only to mourn when they dissolve. Have you ever felt the sting of realizing someone wasn't who you thought? What did that moment teach you about yourself? The emotional weight of this truth can feel crushing. It's painful to admit that the stories we tell ourselves about love, about women, about our own hearts, are often just that, stories. But there's a strange power in this pain. To see through Schopenhauer's lens is to reclaim your clarity, to step out of the fog of illusion and into the sharp light of reality. It's not about becoming cynical, it's about becoming wise. As the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. To understand the truth of our relationships, we must first look back at the illusions we've held and ask, why did I believe what I did? This question is the gateway to growth, the spark that lights the path to a stronger, clearer self. So, how do we begin to see through this lens? The skill of critical self-examination, introduced in the first chapter, now deepens. It's not enough to question your assumptions. You must interrogate them with rigor. Take a belief you hold about women, about relationships, about love itself. Write it down. Now ask, what evidence do I have for this belief? Is it based on observation, or is it shaped by my hopes, my fears, my desires? This practice is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront the gaps between what you feel and what is real. Try it today. Pick one assumption, say, women are inherently nurturing or love conquers all, and list 3 observations that support it and 3 that challenge it. This exercise isn't about proving Schopenhauer right or wrong. It's about training your mind to seek truth over comfort. Can you commit to this small act of courage? Can you face the possibility that your beliefs might not hold up under scrutiny? The beauty of Schopenhauer's lens is that it doesn't just reveal flaws, it reveals potential. By stripping away the illusions we project onto others, we begin to see them as they are, complex, human, driven by the same forces that move us. This clarity doesn't diminish love, it refines it. It allows us to build relationships grounded in reality, not fantasy. It empowers us to choose partners not for what we wish them to be, but for who they truly are. And most importantly, it turns the lens inward, forcing us to ask, what illusions do I hold about myself? To see clearly is to grow, to strengthen, to become a person who navigates life with eyes wide open. Schopenhauer's truth is not a verdict, it's an invitation. It asks you to let go of the stories that keep you small and embrace the reality that makes you strong. So, I ask you now, what do you see through this unfiltered lens? Are you ready to question the beliefs that shape your world? The truth may sting, but it also sets you free, to love more wisely, to live more boldly, to become more fully yourself. What price do you pay for clinging to a comforting lie? When you close your eyes to the truth about women, about love, about yourself, what does it cost you? Schopenhauer's philosophy, with its unrelenting clarity, forces us to face this question. His lens reveals not just the illusions we project onto others, but the heavy toll they exact on our lives. To live in denial is to walk a path of repeated pain, where every step forward is shadowed by the ghosts of truths ignored. But what if facing that cost could lead you to freedom? What if the pain of truth is the price of a wiser, stronger you? Schopenhauer's pessimism cuts deep here. He saw human relationships, particularly between men and women, as fraught with illusions born of desire and fantasy. Men, he argued, often see women as ideals, symbols of purity, love, or salvation, while ignoring the raw realities of human nature. The stark truth is this: when we cling to illusions about others, we set ourselves up for suffering. We build expectations that reality cannot sustain, and when those expectations crumble, we're left with disappointment, betrayal, or despair. This isn't just about women, it's about our refusal to see people, men, women, ourselves, as they truly are. Have you ever felt the weight of a shattered illusion? What did it steal from you? Time, trust, or something deeper? Consider Anna, a woman who believed her partner, Mark, was her perfect match. She saw him as her protector, her confidant, the one who would never falter. She ignored the signs, his late nights, his vague excuses, his growing distance, because she needed him to be the man she imagined. When Mark's infidelity came to light, Anna's world collapsed. The illusion she'd clung to didn't just break her heart, it stole years of her life, eroded her self-worth, and left her questioning her own judgment. Anna's story is a mirror for us all. How often do we ignore red flags because we want to believe in a better story? How many times have you paid the cost of illusion with your own pain? The emotional toll of this cycle is staggering. Each time we choose illusion over reality, we chip away at our trust in ourselves. We repeat the same mistakes, falling for the same false promises, whether from a partner, a friend, or our own hearts. Schopenhauer's warning is clear. To ignore the truth of human nature is to invite suffering. We cycle through hope and heartbreak, building new illusions to replace the old, never pausing to ask why. But there's a spark of hope in this darkness. The pain of disillusionment, though sharp, is also a teacher. It begs us to stop, to reflect, to learn. Can you hear its call? Can you feel the ache of lessons unlearned, urging you to change? As Plato once said, the life of man is of no greater duration than the breath of his nostrils. Life is fleeting, and every moment spent chasing illusions is a moment lost to growth. Schopenhauer's lens shows us that the cost of illusion isn't just emotional, it's existential. It's the time we waste, the opportunities we miss, the versions of ourselves we never become. But this cost is not a sentence, it's a challenge. By facing the truth, we can break the cycle. We can choose to see clearly, to build relationships grounded in reality, to live with purpose and strength. The question is, are you willing to pay the price of truth to escape the cost of illusion? To move forward, we must deepen the skill of critical self-examination. In the last chapter, you began questioning your assumptions. Now let's take it further. Learn to journal your observations to separate fact from feeling. Each day, take a moment to write about someone in your life, a partner, a friend, a colleague. Note what they did, what they said, and how it made you feel. Then ask, what is the evidence behind my feelings? Am I seeing their actions clearly, or am I coloring them with my hopes or fears? For example, if you feel someone is distant, write down specific behaviors. Did they avoid eye contact, respond curtly, or cancel plans? Compare these facts to your emotions. This practice trains your mind to distinguish reality from illusion, building a foundation for wiser choices. Can you commit to this daily act of clarity? Can you face the discomfort of seeing without bias? The cost of illusion is high, but the reward of truth is higher. Anna, after her heartbreak, began to journal. She wrote about Mark's actions, her feelings, and the patterns she'd ignored. Through this, she saw not just his flaws, but her own tendency to idealize. This clarity didn't erase her pain, but it gave her power. She began to rebuild, choosing relationships based on evidence, not dreams. Her story is a beacon. The truth hurts, but it also heals. By facing the cost of our illusions, we open the door to a life of authenticity, where our choices reflect reality, not fantasy. So I ask you now, what illusions have cost you the most? What truths are you ready to face to reclaim your power? Schopenhauer's lens is not a punishment, it's a gift. It shows us the price of our blindness and the promise of our clarity. Step forward, journal in hand, and let the truth guide you to a stronger, wiser self. The cost of illusion is behind you, the path of truth lies ahead. Can you face the world as it is, not as you wish it to be? Can you look at the people in your life, women, men, yourself, and see them without the haze of illusion? Schopenhauer's philosophy, with its stark clarity, demands this courage. It asks you to strip away the fantasies you've woven around love, desire, and human nature, and to stand firm in the face of what remains. This is no small task. It takes bravery to let go of comforting lies, to see the raw truth of our relationships and ourselves. But what if this courage could set you free? What if seeing clearly is the key to a life of strength, wisdom, and authentic connection? Schopenhauer's lens, which we've held up in previous chapters, reveals a world driven by instinct, need, and survival. His views on women, often harsh, always unfiltered, challenge us to see beyond the ideals we project. The stark truth is this: to see people as they truly are requires facing our own fears of disillusionment. We fear that without our illusions, love will lose its magic, relationships their warmth, life its meaning. But Schopenhauer argues the opposite. Illusions chain us to suffering, while truth liberates us. To see a woman not as a muse or a villain, but as a human, flawed, complex, driven by her own motives, is to free yourself from the cycle of expectation and disappointment. Can you feel the weight of this choice? Can you sense the power in choosing truth over fantasy? This truth extends beyond relationships to the core of who you are. When you cling to illusions about others, you also blind yourself to your own motives, fears, and desires. Schopenhauer's pessimism, though grim, offers a gift: the chance to know yourself by knowing others. The stark truth here is unrelenting. Courageous seeing demands that you confront not just the flaws of others, but your own. It's easy to blame a partner for a failed relationship, to point to their deceit or distance. But what about your own role? What assumptions, needs, or blind spots did you bring? To see clearly is to turn Schopenhauer's lens inward, to ask, what truths about myself have I avoided? This is where courage lives, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, searing act of self-honesty. The emotional pull of this moment is profound. Letting go of illusions feels like standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind of truth whipping around you. There's fear, yes, the fear of losing the stories that have comforted you, the ideals that have guided you. But there's also exhilaration. Imagine a life where you see women, men, yourself, with unflinching clarity. Imagine relationships built on reality, not fantasy, choices grounded in wisdom, not hope. This is the freedom Schopenhauer's lens offers, a freedom that hurts at first but heals in time. As James A. Garfield once said, "The truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable." Can you embrace that misery as the price of your liberation? Can you find the courage to step into the light of truth? To cultivate this courage, we deepen the skill of critical self-examination with a practice called radical honesty. You've questioned your assumptions and journaled observations to separate fact from feeling. Now take it further. Commit to acknowledging one uncomfortable truth each day. It might be about a relationship. Perhaps you realize you've ignored a partner's inconsistency because you fear being alone. Or it might be about yourself. Maybe you see how your need for approval shapes your choices. Write this truth down, no matter how small it seems, and reflect on it. Ask, why does this truth make me uncomfortable? What can I learn from it? This practice isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. Start today. Identify one truth you've avoided, write it, and sit with it. Can you feel the strength that comes from facing it head-on? Can you make this a daily ritual to build your courage? This practice of radical honesty is your bridge to freedom. Each truth you face, however painful, chips away at the illusions that bind you. It trains you to see women not as ideals or enemies, but as humans navigating the same messy world you do. It teaches you to see yourself not as a victim or a hero, but as a work in progress capable of growth. Schopenhauer's lens, though harsh, is a tool for empowerment. It shows you that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the choice to see despite it. By facing the truth about women, about relationships, about yourself, you reclaim your power to live authentically.